We followed the build of the SN65 Mustang here on V8TV. It's a 1965 Ford Mustang fastback that has been mated with the undercarriage, engine, transmission, suspension, and interior from a 2003 Ford Mustang Cobra. Last time on the show, we took it to finish line performance where we had a baseline dyno session which yielded over 400 rear-wheel horsepower and nearly 400 foot-pounds of torque. Today we're following Bob and Wayne Julian as they upgrade the Supercharger to a Whipple twin-screw unit looking for 550 rear-wheel horsepower.
Yeah, we went with the Whipple design. It's a little different from the blower we had on the car. The blower on the car was like a Roots-style blower where the vanes are fairly straight with a little bit of a pitch to them and such. And this one is basically like two big corkscrews that run and compress the air. So it's a lot more efficient than the Roots style blower. We get higher compression at a lower temperature.
The upgrade begins with the removal of the stock Supercharger unit. This 2003 Mustang Cobra engine is a 4.6-liter dual overhead cam V8 that came from the factory with a Roots-type supercharger and an intercooler mounted right below. The process begins by removing the parts surrounding the intake and upper fuel system.
When you're swapping the blowers out on this, you follow the procedure as laid out in the Whipple manual, and it's pretty straightforward. You go by, you check the stuff off, and you just keep going. You're removing electrical connections, vacuum lines, some mechanical assemblies. Everything else is just a matter of taking off the throttle body assembly and taking off the mass air sensor and pulling out all of your electrical wiring harness from around it and then unbolting it.
Once the major pieces are unbolted, the factory blower can come out.
And then, you take and you get down to it and you remove the entire intake manifold blower assembly as one complete unit. And it sounds simple, and if you've done like manifold swaps and such in the past, it's pretty simple to do by yourself actually, but in this particular case, I would recommend you have either one or two of your buddies by to help you get this thing out of the car.
This thing only weighs like 400 pounds.
It weighs quite a bit. I'm not sure exactly how much it weighs. I didn't weigh it, but the thing, it weighs a lot, and me and Wayne were trying to get this thing out by ourselves, and it was just fighting us. You have to get it at just the right angle and lift it up, and it weighs a ton, and you're hanging over the car. It was a pain in the butt. Okay, you ready?
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh.
It's a boy!
Holy shit. Oh, and it's already.
Oh, man. So, lifting that out, get a couple of your friends to help you out with that.
Once the blower was out of the car, the Julians put it on a bench and began to transfer everything from the old assembly to the new one, including the fuel rails, the fuel injectors, and all the miscellaneous brackets. The factory Cobra blower is sitting on top of an intercooler mounted in the middle of the intake manifold. You got to remove the front cover and pull the tubes out to gain access to the intercooler. Then you can remove the blower hold-down bolts and flip the whole assembly upside down to gain access to the intercooler, which has to be removed from the factory blower and transferred to the Whipple unit. A bead of sealer keeps the whole thing from leaking.
Make sure when installing, you put it on the correct way. When it snaps, you got to tighten off.
Yeah.
Now you can begin the process of transferring all the rest of the parts from the original blower assembly onto the new Supercharger.
Yeah.
Did you lubricate the O-ring on the sensor prior to putting it in?
Yeah, I spit on it.
Okay. Glad you're doing that. The EGR valve, we're going to wait until we get that back in the car. Transfer the idle air control valve to the new Supercharger. The one that goes up on top.
This one? Or this one up top?
That
there?
one on top over there. So
do I have to spit on that too?
Next comes the new AccuFab throttle body.
Look at the way that baby sparkles.
When introducing more air into the engine, you have to provide additional fuel to match. The Whipple kit comes with a set of 60 pound-per-hour fuel injectors designed to replace the stock 39 pound-per-hour units.
Going from the 8 psi of boost on the Eaton to the 17 psi of boost we have on the Whipple, we had to go from the 39 up to 60 pound injector. So we're going to be dumping in quite a bit more fuel at this particular point.
The Whipple W140AX Cobra upgrade kit comes with everything needed to make up to 13 pounds of boost without any further modifications to the car. However, these guys want more power and a higher boost level, so the smaller diameter pulley is added to produce 17 pounds of boost.
That's cool. You didn't have to use a puller or anything?
No.
Here, maybe I can get my hands in here too.
Get it.
The 4.6-liter overhead cam Cobra motor is prepped with all new gaskets to seal the added boost of the new Supercharger. Installation of the new unit is a simple task, but that doesn't mean it was easy.
When you're reversing the process and you're putting it back together again, you have to take, and again, if you have 3 people helping put the manifold assembly in, that's great because it's going to fight you trying to get it in the right position and drop down. And then also the EGR plumbing, which we had talked about, that's going to be something that has to be reconnected, and that's something that you're going to have to spend some time with. You have to elevate the back of the manifold by about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch, get the tube to line up. Once the tube lines up and pops in, the manifold drops back down in place and you're home free. But without ever doing it before, we really didn't know that. You know, we're trying to follow the manual and say, okay, get it in place, take and bolt this down, connect up the EGR stuff, and you know, if you try to do it exactly like that, it just fought us the whole time. So
The final steps include attaching the throttle cable, plugging in the fuel injectors, and installing the new mass air meter. Once everything is buttoned up, it's time for a new tune-up. When we return, we're dyno tuning the SN65 with its brand new Supercharger. Will the Julians reach the 550 rear wheel horsepower mark? Stay tuned to find out. Bob and Wayne Julian have just completed the install of a new Whipple Supercharger on their SN65 Mustang. The original 2003 Cobra engine made around 400 rear wheel horsepower, but the Julians are hoping for 550 with the new Supercharger.
We've upgraded to a Whipple twin screw blower and an assortment of other add-on parts to take and drive the power up, well, as as far as reasonably possible. We want to get the horsepower up into the 550 horsepower range with a nice flat broad power band.
In order to make high horsepower safely, the engine management computer in the SN65 needs to be tuned. The correct air-fuel ratio and ignition timing curves will guarantee lots of power and long life. Bob Kurgan of Kurgan Motorsports is using software from SCT and the Dyno Jet Chassis Dyno at Speed Inc. to dial in the car. The first pass is usually just the beginning to check and see what parameters need to be changed to hone in on a correct air-fuel ratio.
Yeah, actually install was real successful. I'm real happy with it. On the dyno, he's got everything tuned in pretty good. The air-fuel mixture looks real nice. The timing is all set pretty good. Everything seems to be nailed down real nice. And we're generating somewhere in the 530 horsepower range with about 505 foot-pounds of torque. So, you know, I'm real happy with those numbers. Well, you know, I need a car that generates 500 horsepower just to get me to work on time in the morning.